The pink-haired girl looks at the counselor Emma, a brown-haired woman who greets the pink-haired girl, introduces herself, and asks the reason for her visit. The pink-haired girl explains that a weak woman is being threatened by an extremely evil man. Counselor Emma, deeply concerned, speculates aloud about who the victim might be. The pink-haired girl suddenly declares that she herself is the victim. She vividly describes her suffering, enduring rough treatment and humiliation from a large and threatening man, only to be met with neglect and ridicule. The pink-haired girl erupts in anger, declaring her self-esteem has been utterly crushed and imploring the counselor to completely shatter the arrogant face of her tormentor. The name Rose Valentine comes up, and the pink-haired girl gasps in shock, recognizing a voice. The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, reveals he's been looking for her for a long time. This causes shock, and the pink-haired girl wonders in surprise how Claude Dunhart discovered her location. Claude Dunhart, with an intense gaze, explains his concern over her sudden disappearance. The pink-haired girl nervously thinks Claude is getting angry and tries to talk to him. Claude Dunhart threateningly pulls the pink-haired girl into a tight embrace, suggesting they complete the imprinting immediately. This leaves her speechless. A shirtless Claude Dunhart explains that going all the way with him has a specific meaning. A silhouette of two figures embracing symbolizes becoming lifelong, inseparable partners. The panicked pink-haired girl thinks this is impossible and tries to deflect, claiming her visit was for a friend. Claude Dunhart, exuding a powerful aura, declares he will no longer hold back, prompting the pink-haired girl to scream in refusal. The pink-haired girl insists she is serious, asking the counselor for affirmation before pleading to be saved from this man. The pink-haired girl appears shocked and terrified when a hand gently touches her neck. As Claude Dunhart leans in, the pink-haired girl reveals he is the main villain of this world. The game title, A Guide to Saving Asian, appears over a dreamlike landscape of floating islands. A dating simulation game is introduced where the heroine, Irene, seeks the affection of male candidates. The world of Asian has terrifying monsters and guides. They possess powers to fight against the monsters. A blonde, green-eyed woman in a blue dress radiates light. A brown-haired woman holding a phone contemplates the protagonist's important role in the game setting. The name Irene Magnolia is displayed within a decorative, futuristic frame. As the blonde woman smiles, the player admires Irene Magnolia's beautiful character design. Holding a book, the Guide Protection and Supervision Center, where powerless staff handle administrative work, piques the player's curiosity. The player taps the phone screen, realizing it is a simple reverse harem dating sim. The goal is to achieve a happy ending with any character, like the man holding a bride in a wedding dress. The blonde woman tries to get along with kind people. S-Class Sentinel Number 1. A villain is on a rampage, and a plea for help is coldly rejected by a red-haired man with a warning of jail time. The blonde woman, Irene, appears confused in a dim, empty room. The blonde woman desperately grabs the pant leg of S-Class Sentinel Number 3 to stop him. A silver-haired man in a military uniform smiles gently, reaching out his hand. A framed portrait of the silver-haired man is solemnly decorated with a ribbon, symbolizing his passing. The brown-haired woman stares in anguish and disbelief, thinking the situation is insane. The dejected brown-haired woman thinks the game is crazy and that the world's villain ruined her happy ending. She lets out a frustrated sigh. The screen shows the back of a black-haired man as the narration explains an illustration was unlocked through a specific ending. The brown-haired woman eagerly checks her phone, hoping the community has a strategy to defeat the villain. The player sees the game's community forum filled with complaints, realizing everyone was defeated by the villain. The brown-haired woman thinks the villain's rampage is due to a lack of proper guiding and wonders if he could be stopped if guided well. A light bulb appears over the brown-haired woman's head as she realizes that, as the heroine, she can guide the villain. The blonde woman, Irene, looks panicked and reaches out her hand. The brown-haired woman, looking distressed on a staircase, holds her phone and wonders about the current moment. A system notification announces that a terrible germaphobe killed the player by snapping her neck to avoid guiding contact, ending the game. The brown-haired woman screams in horrified anger at the germaphobe setting that led to her death. Claude Dunhart quietly looks away and asks what. Claude Dunhart asks if the pink-haired girl was calling him, but she denies it, thinking he's a dirty pervert. The pink-haired girl looks worried in a luxurious hallway. The pink-haired girl anxiously looks up at the black-haired man. The brown-haired woman, eating, wonders what crime she committed. The brown-haired woman laments her daily struggles, shattered self-esteem, and lack of belonging, crying. The brown-haired woman questions why she can't find happiness. The brown-haired woman resents the game's final boss freak, that black-haired man. The brown-haired woman, having been hit by a car, lies lifelessly on the street. The broken phone screen shows a malfunctioning landscape of Asian. The pink-haired girl sits up, wondering how she survived the car accident. The pink-haired girl wonders in shock. What happened to her? The pink-haired girl stares in disbelief at her new self in the mirror, calling it possession. The pink-haired girl opens a drawer to look for character information. The pink-haired girl thinks of a name, possibly her former identity. The pink-haired girl wonders why she can't control her guiding ability. The pink-haired girl questions if guides only need physical contact. The chibi pink-haired girl worries she is just a background extra. The pink-haired girl celebrates the start of a new life, freed from the shackles of the plot. The pink-haired girl excitedly declares her new life is a gift from God. The pink-haired girl despairs that Rose Valentine has nothing. The chibi pink-haired girl is horrified by her empty wallet and zero savings. The chibi pink-haired girl struggles with writing a resume, finding a job, and living expenses. Rose Valentine joyfully receives her employee ID, looking forward to an ordinary life. Rose Valentine writes down her Flower Road plan, vowing to hide her identity as a guide. Rose Valentine fantasizes about imprinting with a handsome sentinel and pave her own path. The interrupted Rose Valentine realizes there is an important variable. The blonde woman angrily scolds Rose Valentine for getting the bathroom floor wet. The blonde woman fumes over her wet socks, and chibi Rose promises to be more careful. The chibi pink-haired girl excitedly realizes she has met the game's hero, Irene Magnolia. The blonde woman smiles beautifully. Irene Magnolia asks Rose Valentine to take good care of her, which feels unreal. A frustrated Irene Magnolia demands Rose Valentine be more careful. Irene Magnolia looks displeased as Rose Valentine enters the door. Irene Magnolia reads a book in bed while Rose Valentine tries to be quiet. Irene Magnolia glares and yells Rose, and Rose Valentine shrinks back apologetically. The tormented chibi pink-haired girl concludes that Irene's personality is not ordinary. A late Rose Valentine sighs in distress. Rose Valentine stands outside the dorm, dreading Irene's inevitable scolding. Rose Valentine decides to wait, tired of being subservient to Irene. Rose Valentine decides to wait outside until Irene is asleep. Rose Valentine feels much better, enjoying the cool evening breeze outdoors. The sound of rustling leaves fills the air around Rose Valentine. Rose Valentine worries she might encounter a mutant while alone. Rose Valentine observes a black-haired man in pain, wondering what's wrong. The lively pink-haired girl is relieved it's a normal person and feels safe within the center. Rose Valentine considers talking to the black-haired man, finding him attractive. Rose Valentine's eyes widen in surprise. Rose Valentine approaches the black-haired man, who is kneeling with a pained expression, and asks, "Excuse me." The black-haired man is in agony, making Rose Valentine feel something is wrong. Rose Valentine rushes toward the fallen black-haired man, asking if he's okay. Rose Valentine kneels and touches the black-haired man, asking if he's hurt. Rose Valentine recognizes Claude Dunhart's Sentinel uniform, his ragged breathing and trembling, realizing it's an ability rampage. Surrounded by a dark aura, Claude Dunhart struggles, with text warning that his rampage will turn everything into a disaster zone. Rose Valentine looks distressed, contemplating how to help him. Rose Valentine laments not having a guide, then suddenly realizes she is a guide herself. Rose Valentine hesitates, wondering if she can perform guiding given her hidden identity and situation. Claude Dunhart's face shows extreme pain and exhaustion as he pants. Rose Valentine touches Claude Dunhart, thinking it's time to focus and act quickly. Rose Valentine kneels, her hands glowing as she guides Claude Dunhart. Rose Valentine looks surprised, feeling that her guiding attempt worked. Claude Dunhart violently grabs Rose Valentine's hand. Claude Dunhart pulls Rose Valentine into a tight hug, panting, "Ha," and tells her to calm down first. Claude Dunhart stares intensely at the frightened Rose Valentine, whose eyes widen in surprise. Claude Dunhart kisses Rose Valentine, leaving her utterly shocked and questioning the sudden event. A close-up shows Rose Valentine's wide, shocked eyes during the unexpected kiss. Claude Dunhart continues to kiss Rose Valentine, who exhales softly. Claude Dunhart kisses the stunned Rose Valentine, who tries to say why. MMPH. Rose Valentine notices a cut on Claude Dunhart's lip, realizing he's bleeding. Rose Valentine looks distressed, thinking to herself that she was just trying to wake him from his rampage. Rose Valentine apologizes profusely to Claude Dunhart, insisting she didn't mean to hurt him and asking if he's okay. As Rose Valentine reaches for Claude Dunhart's face, he watches her intensely. Claude Dunhart says he's fine and urges Rose Valentine to continue guiding, but she gasps, realizing he's drunk on guiding. Rose Valentine urgently tells Claude Dunhart to wait, her hand making a light patting motion. Rose Valentine explains that the emergency part is over and she needs to call the director, telling Claude Dunhart to wait. Claude Dunhart forcefully grabs Rose Valentine's wrist, surprising her with his strength. Rose Valentine is confused by Claude Dunhart's refusal to let go. Claude Dunhart looks at Rose Valentine with a sincere blush, asking her to give him a little more guiding. Rose Valentine is surprised to realize Claude Dunhart is asking for permission. Instead of forcing her, Claude Dunhart closes his eyes and gently kisses Rose Valentine's hand. Rose Valentine agrees to guide Claude Dunhart. Having made her decision, Claude Dunhart looks at Rose Valentine with a gentle, grateful expression, his cheeks flushed. Rose Valentine kisses Claude Dunhart, admitting that at the time, she had no idea what this truly meant. Rose Valentine gasps, realizing she might have touched the cut on Claude Dunhart's lip while kissing him. Rose Valentine kisses Claude Dunhart, thinking the kiss is to stop his ability rampage. A close-up shot shows Rose Valentine and Claude Dunhart kissing passionately. Rose Valentine pulls away from Claude Dunhart, utterly shocked, letting out a soft ha. A panicked Rose Valentine realizes they are still outside and forgot that others might see them. Rose Valentine clutches her head in horror, despairing over her ruined social reputation and imagining people gossiping. Rose Valentine tries to leave, stating the guiding is enough, but Claude Dunhart won't let her go. Rose Valentine frantically pleads with Claude Dunhart to let her go, reminding him he's a sentinel and help will arrive soon. Claude Dunhart lowers his head and sighs in slight annoyance. Honestly, Claude Dunhart stares intensely at Rose Valentine, thinking she's making him worry again. A stylized image shows Claude Dunhart looking at Rose Valentine with a thought bubble of a kiss. Rose Valentine smiles and tells Claude Dunhart, "That's enough, goodbye." Rose Valentine quickly runs away from Claude Dunhart, her footsteps making a pattering sound. A black screen with Korean text marks the end of the chapter. A couple holds hands as the narration explains that higher guiding satisfaction enhances its effect. Rose Valentine savors the kiss, understanding its meaning and sensing their good compatibility. Rose Valentine and Claude Dunhart kiss passionately, feeling a spring-like flow where their skin touches. Rose Valentine touches her lips, wondering if she will ever see Claude Dunhart again. Rose Valentine smiles happily, thinking Claude Dunhart might even come find her once he's fully recovered. Irene Magnolia looks worried while Rose Valentine makes an owl-like sound. Irene Magnolia gently touches Rose Valentine's head, thinking she's tired from the crowded place. Rose Valentine smiles at a light, brown-haired man who quietly greets her. Two black-haired men discuss that all guides were summoned because an S-Class Sentinel lost control and was subdued by guiding. A close-up of Rose Valentine, wondering if the discussion about the Sentinel and guide is about her. Rose Valentine's eyes widen as she realizes Claude Dunhart is an S-Class Sentinel. The narrator says there are only 4 S-Class Sentinels in the world, one of whom has hair darker than night. A black-haired man in a uniform realizes only one S-Class Sentinel fits that description. Claude Dunhart. The black-haired man reveals a pair of intense red eyes. Rose Valentine is shocked, realizing Claude Dunhart is the game's worst villain. The hall is bustling with a large crowd. Claude Dunhart looks annoyed, stating this isn't the right seat and that he's leaving. A black-haired man wonders why a woman has been standing there since morning, observing Rose Valentine and Irene Magnolia. A thought bubble notes that Irene Magnolia is fearless even around an S-Class Sentinel. Rose Valentine recalls kissing Claude Dunhart, regretting her actions, her failure to recognize him in the dark, and his identity as the villain. A black-haired man and a light-haired man observe a kneeling man who thinks he brought the guards. A brown-haired police guard apologizes for not seeing the person with Claude, explaining they disappeared after curfew, leaving only Claude. The brown-haired police guard explains the person disappeared too quickly to be identified, and Claude Dunhart asks if that's so. Claude Dunhart pointedly asks about the person who cut off the guiding and didn't see the guide. Claude Dunhart threateningly tells the brown-haired man Eek to remember something if he wants to live. Rose Valentine finds the situation troublesome, then suddenly flinches in alarm and clutches her book. Rose Valentine looks worried, realizing Claude Dunhart is specifically looking for her. The narrator describes Claude Dunhart's special status among the S-Class, beyond his role as the game's final boss. The narrator reveals that 3 of Asian's 4 S-Class Sentinels, including Claude Dunhart, awaken their powers as adults. A younger Claude Dunhart looks serious. The narrator explains that the adult Claude Dunhart is the S-Class leader of Asian's absolute justice. Rose Valentine worries that despite her efforts to avoid him, Claude Dunhart will eventually find her. Rose Valentine is distraught, recalling her kiss with Claude Dunhart and his wound, realizing the gravity of her actions. Irene Magnolia thinks the unknown guide is foolish for not identifying the sentinel they guided, causing the current chaos. Irene Magnolia suggests providing a description would help find the guide, while Rose Valentine thinks to herself that the guide might have been disoriented during the rampage. Rose Valentine is shocked, wondering if Claude Dunhart also doesn't remember his guide. 2 black-haired men question how the guide could not know Claude Dunhart's features, concluding he must have been hallucinating during the rampage. The narrator explains that his Sentinel's ability rampage causes sensory and cognitive distortions, leading to misidentification. Chibi Rose Valentine despairs, worried that Claude, being an S-Class, might remember her unique pink hair. Rose Valentine looks worried, thinking Irene, before correcting herself to it's me. A nervous-looking brown-haired girl with glasses and pigtails stands among several men. The brown-haired girl with glasses and pigtails looks determined. Rose Valentine looks surprised, wondering why the brown-haired girl is falsely claiming to be the guide. Rose Valentine confirms internally that she was the one who guided Claude Dunhart. The brown-haired girl with glasses and pigtails blushes, wondering if Claude Dunhart likes her. The narrator reveals that Claude Dunhart, though publicly adored, can have a very eccentric temper. The brown-haired girl with glasses and pigtails stands by Claude Dunhart. Rose Valentine smiles and urges Irene Magnolia to hurry and leave, asserting they aren't guides and don't need to stay, and Irene agrees. Claude Dunhart exposes the brown-haired girl's clumsy lie, and she looks shocked, asking what he means. Claude Dunhart looks at Rose Valentine, who is startled, realizing their eyes just met. Rose Valentine worries that Claude Dunhart recognized her as he approaches. Rose Valentine frantically questions why Claude Dunhart is walking towards her as footsteps sound. Rose Valentine anxiously tries to hurry the confused Irene Magnolia away. Rose Valentine is startled when Claude Dunhart stands behind them, wondering if he's calling her. Claude Dunhart stares intensely at Rose Valentine, asking for a name. The blonde staff member, Irene Magnolia, is curious about her identity, while Rose Valentine realizes Claude is here for Irene, not for her. Pink-haired Rose Valentine is startled by a thought bubble pointing behind her. Rose Valentine desperately clutches her book, pleading with an exclamation mark. Rose Valentine is depicted as a pink-haired chibi asking me, while the black-haired, red-eyed Claude Dunhart impatiently asks if he needs to repeat his question. The pink-haired Rose Valentine is visibly trembling, while the blonde Irene Magnolia introduces her as a civil servant from the Guide Management Division. A panel explains the industry test to enter the center, where powerless individuals become staff, showing people in a medical lab. The pink-haired Rose Valentine watches with concern, clutching her book. The black-haired, red-eyed Claude Dunhart instructs a brown-haired man to check something. The man agrees, while Rose Valentine fears the situation is not good. The pink-haired Rose Valentine panics about the accidental guiding that would expose her identity to Claude, imagining a game-over screen in her game-like reality. The pink-haired Rose Valentine bids farewell to a brown-haired man, determined not to repeat the original story's fate. A male hand gently reaches for a female hand. The pink-haired Rose Valentine closes her eyes in anguish, worried she's done for if her secret is discovered. The pink-haired Rose Valentine holds the brown-haired man's hand, noting she can't control her guiding. The pink-haired Rose Valentine foresees her own bloody death, certain that if Claude knew, he would kill her for the physical contact. The pink-haired Rose Valentine looks surprised while holding the brown-haired man's hand. The latter seems equally shocked. The pink-haired Rose Valentine holds the brown-haired man's hand, surprised that no guiding was triggered despite the physical contact. The black-haired Claude Dunhart walks past Rose Valentine and the brown-haired man, much to Rose's relief. The pink-haired Rose Valentine bends over, exhausted, lamenting that the stressful encounter took 10 years off her life, while Irene Magnolia stands by. The pink-haired Rose Valentine confidently touches her head, thinking Claude will no longer suspect her. Claude. The black-haired Claude Dunhart leaves two black-haired men as the room fills with whispers. Claude Dunhart places a hand on Rose Valentine's shoulder, feels the guiding, and realizes she is an ability user disguised as a powerless staff member. The pink-haired Rose Valentine looks shocked, realizing her guiding accidentally leaked, exposing her true nature. The black-haired, red-eyed Claude Dunhart approaches Rose Valentine threateningly, declaring that he has found her. The pink-haired Rose Valentine screams in a dream as Claude Dunhart grabs her neck. A red and black background highlights the horror as the narrator recalls Claude snapping Irene's neck in the original story. The pink-haired Rose Valentine wakes up with a start in bed to a voice calling her Roji. The blonde Irene Magnolia urges the pink-haired Rose Valentine to get up or she'll be late, reminding her about the simulation training. The black-haired, red-eyed Claude Dunhart sits solemnly, exuding power and intensity. The pink-haired Rose Valentine looks at the black-haired Claude Dunhart from across the table, realizing she has met him again. Irene. The blonde Magnolia observes that Claude Dunhart is glaring at Rose Valentine, who dismisses it as a hallucination. The black-haired, red-eyed Claude Dunhart has a serious expression, his gaze fixed. The narrator describes simulated combat training for inexperienced sentinels and guides to enhance their response to mutants and improve vigilance. The black-haired, red-eyed Claude Dunhart looks annoyed, thinking that people who treat combat like a playground shouldn't be there, comparing it to a professor attending an undergraduate program. The blonde Irene Magnolia smiles at the pink-haired Rose Valentine, who asks what. A brown-haired man comments on Claude's expression, causing the pink-haired Rose Valentine to mentally admit she was the one who cut his lip. The pink-haired Rose Valentine looks tired at her desk as an announcement instructs everyone to gather, while she plans to take a leave or transfer after the training. The pink-haired Rose Valentine looks surprised when someone calls her Rosie. A brown-haired man introduces 3 newly assigned guides to Rose Valentine's team, which surprises Rose as her team already has 2 guides. The pink-haired Rose Valentine is utterly shocked, asking if Claude is in their group. The pink-haired Rose Valentine smiles nervously, her heart pounding as she fears for her life, hoping nothing bad happens. The black-haired Claude Dunhart powerfully fights a giant creature in a dynamic combat scene. The black-haired, red-eyed Claude Dunhart has a focused expression. 2 brown-haired men watch the black-haired Claude Dunhart, one offering assistance only to be harshly told to get lost. A close-up shows the intense profile of the black-haired, red-eyed Claude Dunhart against a fiery background. The black-haired, red-eyed Claude Dunhart looks bored and annoyed, thinking the simulation training is ridiculous for amateurs. The pink-haired Rose Valentine thinks Claude's S-class status and handsome face are unfair, then concludes his trashy personality balances it out. A brown-haired woman asks if Claude is still looking for the person who stopped his rampage, musing that it sounds romantic. A brown-haired woman imagines Claude with other high-ranking guides, suggesting he and Raznanim would look good together. A brown-haired man and a purple-haired woman appear as the narrator desperately hopes someone will get Claude to imprint. A black-haired man asserts Balan is 100 defective, having never seen him approach a guide. The narrator says Balan recently awakened. A purple-haired man with a smug smile tells two women that looks aren't everything and true power comes from a sentinel's inner strength, just like his. The purple-haired woman scolds the brown-haired woman for her rude comments, warning that the center monitors such behavior, while the brown-haired woman smiles, thinking a powerful sentinel still can't reach S-class. The purple-haired man looks completely enraged, his face contorted with anger. The purple-haired man angrily asks the brown-haired woman if she wants to die, but she innocently wonders if she said something wrong, while he thinks of the perfect S-class Claude. The purple-haired man shouts in frustration, demanding to know who dares to mock a sentinel. A brown-haired man places a calming hand on the purple-haired man's shoulder to calm him down, while the purple-haired man complains. As the narrator says, sentinels are respected by the public. A blond man shows off glowing hands. A blond man stands back-to-back with a purple-haired woman who radiates a golden light. The purple-haired man watches irritably as the brown-haired man and two women walk past him. The pink-haired Rose Valentine blushes nervously near the purple-haired man. Rose Valentine diligently takes notes, and the purple-haired man, Balan, asks what she's writing so seriously. Rose Valentine sighs and closes her eyes, causing Balan to notice and angrily question her sigh. A powerful, red-glowing fist hits something with a forceful thud. Balan threateningly grabs Rose Valentine's head, declaring that even she thinks she can ignore him now, much to her surprise. Balan asserts Rose Valentine is a useless human, questioning her confidence, while she wonders why he's suddenly angry with her. Balan threatens Rose Valentine with a burning hand, asking who ensures her safety at night. Balan smiles while holding a fireball, telling Rose Valentine she needs proper training. As Rose Valentine clutches her board, looking extremely terrified and desperately pleading for someone to stop Balan. The narrator describes a world filled with monsters, espers, and guides, placing Rose Valentine at the very bottom of the Artaion food chain. As she looks terrified, Balan smiles in the crowd, saying they should be grateful to witness his power, while the narrator sarcastically calls the protected civilians inferior humans and pathetic, powerless individuals. Rose Valentine clutches her book tightly, looking very distressed, as the narrator explains that the powerless are indeed inferior. Rose Valentine is engulfed by flames, screaming and desperately wondering if anyone will help her. Balan smiles wickedly, holding a fireball in his hand and calling Rose Valentine a nobody. Balan stands before cowering Rose Valentine with his burning hand raised, ordering her to remember the greatness of Espers, while she internally concludes he's a madman. Rose Valentine looks distressed, panicking about what will happen next. Rose Valentine tries to stand up but can't, internally realizing she must escape from Balan. Balan raises his burning hand, warning Rose Valentine not to feign helplessness, while she fearfully whispers don't. Rose Valentine's blue eyes widen in shock as she asks what happened. Balan shouts in confusion and anger, asking who caught him. A white-gloved hand flashes with powerful purple energy. Balan is thrown into the air by a blast of purple energy, coughing from the impact. Rose Valentine and the other guides look shocked, wondering who attacked Balan. Then Rose realizes it's that person. Balan gasps and coughs, looking startled after recognizing Claude Dunhart. Claude Dunhart stares with his red eyes, making Rose Valentine wonder why he is in the rear instead of on the front lines. Claude Dunhart unleashes devastating purple energy, shattering rocks, defeating Balan, and calling him pathetic. Claude Dunhart grimly announces that the training is over and they are going back. Claude Dunhart and two black-haired men stand near Rose Valentine, and Claude instructs them to take care of that person, which startles her. Rose Valentine kneels on the ground, wide-eyed and stunned, with papers scattered around her. Claude Dunhart exudes purple energy with a serious expression, as Rose Valentine thinks about joining his group, his past help, and his order to protect her. While feeling herself being carried, a blonde man asks about golem dust, and a pink-haired guide explains that it's a trace of Claude Dunhart's work. Rose Valentine nervously denies that Claude has any interest in her, worried she'll be pulverized if she annoys him. Rose Valentine giggles nervously, thinking that while Balin is an S-class, he's lame as a man. Then she notices he was humiliated. Balin angrily wonders if Claude can go back happily after doing this to him. Rose Valentine looks shocked. Rose Valentine's blue eyes widen in confusion. Balin flies into a rage, loudly demanding who said that and angrily asking what. Balin, seemingly unaware of his presence, furiously threatens to crush everyone with rocks. To stop them from escaping, people shout Balin's name as he unleashes a powerful purple energy attack, causing chaos. Explosions and debris fill the air, and someone screams that the cave is about to collapse. A dark figure is amidst powerful red and pink energy, as someone shouts for everyone to take cover. Balin looks completely insane, furiously roaring for everyone to die. Surrounded by purple energy, Balin angrily tells someone to shut up as another black-haired man prepares to fight. Balin's eyes widen as he furiously screams to be let go. Purple energy surging around him. Claude Dunhart stares sternly, ordering someone to look closely and pointing out that they haven't sobered up yet. Balin looks surprised, then collapses to the ground with a thud. Rose Valentine is shocked, realizing the true, overwhelming power of an S-class, and vows to become less conspicuous. A blue rock wall violently cracks and shatters, sending debris flying. A brown-haired man and others panic, realizing the ground is weakening and the cave is collapsing, urgently asking for an escape scroll. Held by a brown-haired man, Rose Valentine happily reveals she has an escape scroll, asking to be put down to get it. Rose holds the found escape scroll in her hand. Rose Valentine is shocked, realizing the 10-person scroll is not enough for their group of 12. Rose Valentine asks if any Esper can teleport, pointing out that 2 people must leave separately. Rose Valentine smiles in relief, exclaiming that he's here. Claude Dunhart looks annoyed, and an unseen person expresses surprise. Claude Dunhart closes his eyes, and a thud is heard beside him. Rose Valentine asks for her opinion, but Claude Dunhart dismisses her as a mere civilian. Claude Dunhart's gloved hand forcibly takes the scroll, stressing that protecting and sending back the guides is the top priority. Rose Valentine angrily questions the need for protection, while a black-haired man instructs everyone to stand closer and hold on to Balin. Rose Valentine screams no, crying and pleading not to be left alone with this monster. Rose Valentine collapses to her knees as rocks and purple energy crumble around her. A thud is heard. Rose Valentine cries in anguish, lamenting that those bad guys left without a second glance, even taking Balin with them. Claude Dunhart smiles slightly, pondering the word just used. Claude Dunhart smiles, wondering if Rose's previous remark was directed at him. While Rose looks startled, a cute purple-haired girl smiles, marking the end of the chapter. Claude Dunhart looks serious, while Rose Valentine appears nervous and wide-eyed. Claude Dunhart looks surprised as Rose Valentine, who is exuding power, stammers a plea for forgiveness. Rose Valentine looks up at Claude Dunhart, asking him to wait for her and pleading to go together. Rose Valentine cries, smoke rising from her hair, pleading not to be left alone with the monster, as the narrator details her grave mistake. The cave collapses violently with a loud, cracking sound, and someone screams in terror. In the chaos, Claude Dunhart holds a distressed Rose Valentine tightly. Claude Dunhart angrily demands who dares to touch him, while a struggling Rose Valentine shouts to let her go. Rose Valentine looks shocked, asking if Claude Dunhart pushed her away, while he looks annoyed, and she realizes the cave almost collapsed. Rose Valentine wonders why Claude Dunhart is dusting off the spot she touched, thinking he might be a germaphobe. Claude Dunhart holds Rose Valentine, but despite their proximity, she thinks he plans to abandon her. Rose Valentine cries resolutely, vowing that he must take her with him. Rose Valentine points at Claude Dunhart, warning him that he'll regret it if he leaves her behind, and that he'll get lost after being abandoned. Claude Dunhart stares sternly at Rose Valentine, demanding she tell the truth and warning her not not to spout nonsense if she values her life. Rose Valentine smiles nervously, realizing anger got the better of her, and accepts the situation. Two brown-haired men offer a ridiculous excuse to Irene Magnolia, who questions their reasoning. Irene Magnolia looks surprised, calling out Rose's name. Claude Dunhart stands by as Rose Valentine shouts to Irene Magnolia for help. Irene Magnolia rushes to her side, cupping Rose Valentine's crying face in horror and exclaiming that she looks terribly disfigured. The brown-haired man orders Rose Valentine and Irene Magnolia to stop wasting time and speak immediately. Irene Magnolia angrily tells the brown-haired man that Rose is injured and can only talk later. Claude Dunhart stands looking at Rose Valentine, stating that he has a promise to keep. Rose Valentine is startled, remembering a tall, dark-haired shadow. Claude Dunhart looks serious, questioning if that's really all the information there is. Rose Valentine is shocked, asking why more is needed. Believing her information was sufficient, two brown-haired men grab a distressed Rose Valentine, who demands to know what they are doing. Claude Dunhart, with a serious expression, declares that he can't just trust words alone. Claude Dunhart orders the two brown-haired men to take the distressed Rose Valentine away. The blonde woman, Irene Magnolia, asks the pink-haired girl, Rose, how she can be so calm after being missing all day, while Rose thinks about an angel. The pink-haired girl, Rose, tells Irene Magnolia that she was used as a human radar and that lying to him was the initial problem. Rose smiles, claiming she has resolved everything well and it's okay. The pink-haired girl, Rose, happily thinks about the fragrant scent of fabric softener on her uniform. The blonde woman, Irene Magnolia, questions if Rose really resolved it, startling Rose, who asks what was resolved. Rose smiles, thinking about food, while Irene Magnolia exclaims that now is not the time to be thinking about food. Rose smiles, thinking she seems to have forgotten, when Irene Magnolia shouts her name. Rose looks shocked, touching her pink hair and realizing whose voice it is. The red-eyed, black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, stands with his arms crossed, looking displeased, as the pink-haired girl, Rose, exclaims Claude and wonders why he's here again. The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, menacingly asks how she dared to trick him, while Rose internally wonders what's wrong with Claude. The black-haired man, Dunhart, accuses the pink-haired girl of trying to kiss Oscar, as a flashback shows a black-haired man kissing a blonde man. Rose gasps, thinking to herself that Oscar hates contact because he's a germaphobe. The red-eyed, black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, confirms it wasn't Oscar, then pauses, implying there's more. The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, orders the pink-haired girl to stop messing around and tell him the truth. This makes her feel like she's dead. The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, questions if the pink-haired girl really tried to kiss Oscar, as a flashback shows a black-haired man kissing a blonde man. Rose gasps, remembering Oscar's germophobia. The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, confidently states it wasn't Oscar, but then thinks, however. The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, exclaims, "Don't tell me he actually went to test it," while the pink-haired girl, Rose, nervously insists she already told him everything. The pink-haired girl, Rose, looks distressed, saying it's unfair to blame her if the information she provided wasn't enough. The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, tells Rose to shut up, stating his intuition tells him it wasn't Oscar. The pink-haired girl, Rose, thinks to herself that in the original story, Claude had a guide allergy. Rose's thoughts reveal that guiding for Claude causes a painful, stinging reaction, which is why he avoids physical contact. The pink-haired girl, Rose, plans to use Claude Dunhart's allergy to get out of the situation and mentally apologizes to him. The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, proposes a bet if Rose doesn't believe him and stands very close to her. The pink-haired girl, Rose, looks extremely surprised and blushes slightly at Claude Dunhart's proximity. Two black-haired women and the blonde man, Oscar, react, and Oscar begins to speak in the hallway. The brown-eyed blonde man, Oscar, smiles and looks back at someone. The blonde man, Oscar, smiles, and the pink-haired girl, Rose, wonders why Claude rarely seeks her out on his own. The blonde man, Oscar, and the pink-haired girl, Rose, walk together. Oscar says, "But hey." The pink-haired girl, Rose, looks surprised and clarifies that it's nothing, as the blonde man, Oscar, smiles. The blonde man, Oscar, smiles and says he's never seen Claude with a woman before. The blonde man, Oscar, thinks Claude must really like petite girls, which irritates the pink-haired girl, Rose, who internally retorts that she's not that short. The blonde man, Oscar, smiles at Rose, who looks at him with a puzzled expression. The pink-haired girl, Rose, looks annoyed, thinking Oscar's attitude changed drastically after learning she's a civilian and finding him unreasonable. The blonde man, Oscar, covers his mouth in surprise, and Rose asks how he knew people say that often. The blonde man, Oscar, smiles, thinking Rose is the only one who doesn't get it, while Rose looks surprised and frustrated. The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, and the blonde man, Oscar, stand together, with Rose standing awkwardly nearby and a purple-haired chibi character in the corner. The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, grabs the blonde man, Oscar's arm, who looks shocked and asks what's wrong. The pink-haired girl, Rose, smiles and suggests that since he's here, they can talk easily, while Oscar questions why they're so close. The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, internally thinks he can't risk going back without completing the mission, reminding someone that his life depends on their deal. The pink-haired girl, Rose, smiles while covering her mouth as Claude Dunhart and Oscar stand together. Oscar looks surprised. The blonde man, Oscar, asks Claude Dunhart why he's dragging him into a weird bet with that tiny girl over there, which startles Claude, who retorts, "Tiny girl." The blonde man, Oscar, clarifies that Rose is as small as a bean, so Bean Girl is fitting, and the pink-haired girl, Rose, glares at him, vowing he won't be laughing in 5 minutes. The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, looks out the window and says curtly, "Don't be like that." The pink-haired girl, Rose, the blonde man, Oscar, and the black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, stand in a room with a soft sound in the air. The blonde man, Oscar, asks Claude Dunhart why he's acting so weird and if he can leave now because he's getting goosebumps. The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, adjusts his white gloves and replies no, stating he called Oscar for something else. The blonde man, Oscar, questions Claude Dunhart's behavior, pointing out that he used to be averse to physical contact. The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, moves suddenly, startling Oscar. The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, pulls the blonde man, Oscar, close, almost kissing him, leaving Oscar completely shocked. Chibi versions of Claude Dunhart and Oscar push each other, with Oscar shouting wait. The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, cups Oscar's face as Oscar protests, asking why he's doing this, claiming they're not even in that kind of relationship, and asking if Claude ate something weird. The pink-haired girl, Rose, smiles and thinks, "Man, you should have lived a little kinder." The black-haired man confronts Oscar after his previous remarks and asserts that he only guides for female espers. The blonde man, Oscar, recoils in disgust, shouting at the black-haired man, "Please get your lips away from me." The blonde man, Oscar, sits dejectedly on the floor, exclaiming "damn it," while Rose notices Claude couldn't even hold his hand. The blonde man, Oscar, smiles with a look of relief, glad he escaped. The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, clutches his chest, looking pained after losing the bet. The pink-haired girl, Rose, smiles triumphantly, standing before a dejected Claude Dunhart, who is covering his face. A brown-haired man with glasses, Azir, Rose's senior in the potion department, smiles. The brown-haired man, Azir, assures the pink-haired girl, Rose, that it's normal to be dispatched to support guides. The brown-haired man, Azir, promises to send the pink-haired girl, Rose, back soon once the task is done. The pink-haired girl, Rose, looks surprised and asks Azir about a VIP-only room door. The brown-haired man, Azir, smiles and explains that a very important person is there today. As the brown-haired man, Azir, opens the VIP room door, the pink-haired girl, Rose, is startled, wondering if she's allowed to enter. The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, is lying in bed, looking unwell, with an IV in his arm. This makes someone wonder why he is there. The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, rests in bed, while a thought bubble questions his presence and whether he is asleep. The pink-haired girl, Rose, is shocked by Azir's suggestion to get revenge on the sleeping Claude Dunhart, thinking she could slap him. The pink-haired girl, Rose, worries Claude Dunhart will wake up, but Azir assures her he's focused on sleeping. The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, is fast asleep, having taken many sleeping pills to counteract the uncomfortable guiding sensation. The pink-haired girl, Rose, looks worried, questioning if temporary guiding measures are ineffective for an S-class. The brown-haired man, Azir, smiles, dismissing Rose's concerns about Claude's condition. A dark, abstract image reveals the current measures only temporarily stop the damage, and without continuous guiding, he will eventually explode. The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, exudes purple energy and is described as a rich, handsome S-class who was born with everything. The enviable black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, looks pained as a thought bubble asks if it isn't ironic that his power could kill him. The brown-haired man, Azir, states that Claude's survival is at risk and then apologizes to the pink-haired girl, Rose, for her involvement. The pink-haired girl, Rose, is shocked, realizing the Claude Dunhart she thought was arrogant actually has such serious worries. A flashback shows a burning city, explaining that the Claude she knew blew up half the center during a rampage. A flashback depicts the black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, standing before the late Irene and all the male leads who died because of his rampage. The pink-haired girl, Rose, realizes that if Claude wants to live as much as she does, she can't hate him anymore. The pink-haired girl, Rose, stands by Claude Dunhart, apologizing for running away and using his illness to avoid him. The pink-haired girl, Rose, gently touches Claude Dunhart's forehead, hoping he'll feel better when he wakes up. A close-up shows the pink-haired girl, Rose, gently touching Claude Dunhart's forehead. The pink-haired girl, Rose, looks extremely surprised and mutters, "No way." The pink-haired girl, Rose, laughs nervously, bending down to pick up dropped papers and blaming it on static electricity, while the brown-haired man, Azir, stands by. The pink-haired girl, Rose, smiles nervously as the brown-haired man, Azir, asks if she's leaving now. The pink-haired girl, Rose, looks deeply troubled, wondering why the guiding suddenly only happens in front of Claude. The pink-haired girl, Rose, is startled as something suddenly flies past her. The pink-haired girl, Rose, turns her head in shock as someone shouts her name, "Rose, watch out." The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, appears behind the pink-haired girl, Rose, with a dark look in his eyes, and she whispers, "Look, Claude." The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, stands with a powerful aura, his eyes still dark, thinking something. The pink-haired girl, Rose, looks terrified, realizing she woke up Claude Dunhart through guiding. The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, grabs Rose Valentine's hand, calling her full name. The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, confronts the pink-haired girl, Rose, demanding to know if she is the guide he's been looking for. The pink-haired girl, Rose, cries out in anguish, realizing that such guiding will expose her identity as a guide. The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, grips the pink-haired girl, Rose's, arm tightly, staring at her sternly. As she looks shocked, the black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, with sharp red eyes, deems her actions impossible and demands to know her trick. The pink-haired girl, Rose, worriedly claims she can't control the guiding, and that she's not having any reaction now. The pink-haired girl, Rose, suggests Claude Dunhart find an official guide to help him. The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, grabs Rose's arm, declaring her ridiculous trick won't work. The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, explains that the pink-haired girl, Rose, was a witness to his first guiding, and was also present for the second time. The black-haired man, Claude Dunhart, holds the pink-haired girl, Rose, tightly, questioning if it's all a coincidence. While she realizes she's cornered, Claude declares he doesn't need to hear an explanation. Rose suggests checking if she's a guide with a kiss. Like last time, Claude lifts Rose's chin, pulling her closer, and she blushes furiously. A cute purple-haired character is talking, while Rose thinks about how to verify if someone is a guide. Claude holds Rose tightly, and she is surprised by their sudden closeness. Claude cups Rose's face, telling her to stop chattering and focus on him. Claude and Rose kiss. After the kiss, Claude leans against Rose. Claude hugs Rose tightly. Rose looks flustered, blushing and thinking, but Rose is scared, wondering what if. What if Claude finds out she's the guide? Claude stands before Rose, who looks distressed. Rose nervously clutches her chest. Rose has a pained expression, feeling conflicted, wanting to be happy but struggling. Claude asks Rose if she saw anyone else come in, and Rose hesitantly replies, "Ah, that." Rose worries Claude won't stop suspecting her. Rose internally decides she must lie again to avoid Claude. After hearing Rose's answer, Claude falls into thought. Claude narrates that he bumped into someone. On the way to Rose's room, someone was rushing out. Claude thinks the person he saw with short brown hair is the person he's looking for. Rose feels relieved, believing her lie finally worked. Azir is on the phone, telling someone that Claude called him again. Chibi Azir comforts Chibi Rose, who complains that Claude is still bothering her after she won the bet. Rose smiles and tells Azir she'll be back, while Azir thinks that low-level staff are truly powerless. Azir looks worried and tells Rose not to overdo it. Rose smiles and thanks Azir. Rose walks, thinking about Claude calling her again and how she always ends up lying to him. Claude suddenly pulls Rose in for a kiss, surprising her. Rose smiles, nervously greeting someone and acknowledging their arrival. Rose notices the brown-haired woman with Claude, who is sitting nearby. Claude looks up at Rose and gestures to her. Rose smiles, thinking about the person with Claude. Rose realizes the brown-haired woman, Shauna, perfectly matches the description of the fake guide she made up. Rose looks terrified, afraid all her lies will be exposed. Claude calls for Rose to come in from behind, and she quickly agrees. The brown-haired woman, Shauna, glares and demands to know what's going on. Rose is startled, wondering why Shauna is glaring and if something happened. Expressing fear, Shauna stands with her arms crossed. Looking stern, Claude asks Rose if she bumped into anyone before entering the room. Rose hesitates, thinking the brown-haired woman's height and hair color are similar to her description. But the hairstyle is different. Claude sternly demands a clear yes or no answer from Rose. While in Chibi's scene, Rose agonizes over whether to trouble Shayna or be tormented by Claude. Rose looks at Shayna and asks about Shayna. Claude looks at Rose and asks what. Shauna tells Claude he should ask her directly instead of a staff member. Rose gasps, realizing Shauna is powerful. Claude is sitting, telling Shauna it's fine. Claude asks Shauna if she was the one who guided him that day. Shauna smiles slightly, saying that if Claude wants an answer, he'll have to work for it. Claude stares thoughtfully at Shauna. Rose looks extremely terrified, realizing she's been caught by a fearsome person. The pink-haired girl, Rose, looks distressed while stirring a drink. The pink-haired girl, Rose, looks worried as she stirs her cup. The black-haired man, Claude, and the brown-haired woman, Shauna, sit facing each other, drinking coffee. Chibi pink-haired girl, Rose, observes scenes of Claude and Shauna on various dates. A walk, an amusement park, the beach. During the cafe date, Chibi pink-haired girl, Rose, angrily stirs her drink, questioning why they don't just hold hands to check for guiding. The pink-haired girl, Rose, thinks about Claude and Shauna continuing to date. The brown-haired woman, Shauna, smiles slyly, ready to share what Claude said. The black-haired man, Claude, sips from his cup, and Rose thinks he's getting along well with Shauna. The pink-haired girl, Rose, questions why Claude's attitude towards her is so different. The pink-haired girl, Rose, recalls Claude's threatening behavior and how badly he treated her. The pink-haired girl, Rose, expresses disbelief at Claude's changed behavior, wondering if a pretty face can cure his germophobia. Feeling watched, the pink-haired girl, Rose, gasps, realizing the blonde man, Daniel Ravindel, and others are present. The pink-haired girl, Rose, recognizes the blonde Daniel Ravindel, the red-haired Wilhelm, and the silver-haired Rivner as her former crushes. Rose wonders why Daniel Rivendell, Wilhelm, Rivener, and Claude are working as attendants. The pink-haired girl, Rose, clears her throat and asks the Espers a question, and a voice replies, "Go ahead." The blonde man, Daniel Rivendell, smiles and explains that Claude is both handsome and cool. The red-haired man, Wilhelm, states that Claude is a living legend who inspires awe. The silver-haired man, Rivner, explains that Claude's amazing Esper abilities have earned him respect. The pink-haired girl, Rose, smiles, realizing they're just Claude's super fans. Chibi Daniel, Rivner, and Wilhelm excitedly admire the black-haired man, Claude, confirming they're his super fans. The pink-haired girl, Rose, thinks Claude seems like a cold madman to her, but in the eyes of men, he's an ideal role model. The pink-haired girl, Rose, looks surprised as the blonde man, Daniel Rivendell, explains they admire and follow Lord Claude. The blonde man, Daniel Rivendell, asks Miss Rose if her work is hard. Chibi Rose admits the work is tiring, at which point the blonde man, Daniel Rivendell, takes out a snack from the event budget, surprising Rose, who then learns it's reimbursed. The pink-haired girl, Rose, happily asks for cake, admitting she was jealous watching others eat. The blonde man, Daniel Rivendell, smiles and agrees to go pick out a piece of cake. The pink-haired girl, Rose, excitedly admires the delicious desserts on display. The pink-haired girl, Rose, happily eats a piece of cake, exclaiming that it melts in her mouth. The blonde man, Daniel Rivendell, smiles and asks if it's really that good, and Rose affirmatively replies that it's super delicious. The pink-haired girl, Rose, happily encourages everyone to try the cake too. The blonde, silver-haired, and red-haired men, Daniel Rivendell, Rivener, and Wilhelm, seem a bit flustered by Rose's kindness. The blonde, silver-haired, and red-haired men thank the pink-haired girl, Rose, for kindly offering them cake. The pink-haired girl, Rose, smiles sweetly in a close-up shot. The black-haired man, Claude, looks stern and thoughtful. The brown-haired woman, Shayna, smiles, preparing to speak to Lord Claude. Claude, the black-haired man, claims he can't concentrate because it's too noisy and averts his gaze from Rose and Daniel. The pink-haired girl, Rose, looks surprised when Claude asks if she was the one he was just speaking to. Claude, the black-haired man, tells the pink-haired girl, Rose, to get him some napkins. The pink-haired girl, Rose, questions Claude, and he sternly tells her not to make him repeat himself. The pink-haired girl, Rose, looks annoyed, questioning why Claude is only rude to her. As the pink-haired girl, Rose, comes over with the items, she asks if everything is all right. The black-haired man, Claude, asks the pink-haired girl, Rose, to get him some water as well. The pink-haired girl, Rose, cries out in frustration. A hand passes over a cup, then a spoon. The pink-haired girl, Rose, looks exhausted and announces she's leaving. Rose, the pink-haired girl, expresses disbelief and annoyance at the silently standing Claude. The black-haired man, Claude, with his arms crossed, wonders what they were just discussing. The brown-haired woman, Shayna, lets out a breath, thinking something is nice. The pink-haired girl, Rose, happily praises the combination of strawberries and cream as simply divine. The black-haired man, Claude, asks if the cake is really that good, then thanks Rose. The brown-haired woman, Shayna, speaks to Lord Claude in her mind. Shayna, the brown-haired woman, asks Claude about their supposed meeting. The black-haired man, Claude, stands behind Shayna, watching her. Claude, the black-haired man, sternly tells the silent Shayna to just say what's on her mind. The black-haired man, Claude, decides to leave, and the brown-haired woman, Shayna, walks away as well. The pink-haired girl, Rose, wonders why Shayna is leaving, questioning their date. The pink-haired girl, Rose, eats her cake, curious as to why Shayna has stopped beside her. Shayna, the brown-haired woman, has a sharp look in her eyes, seemingly realizing something. The brown-haired woman, Shayna, thinks about storming off after being ignored. The pink-haired girl, Rose, hears the sound of high heels and wonders if Shayna is approaching. Shayna, the brown-haired woman, appears with a narration explaining she visits Rose daily. The brown-haired woman, Shayna, asks Rose if she has handled the previous matter, listing tripping hazards and noise issues. The pink-haired girl, Rose, smiles nervously, explaining she needs time to verify and resolve the issues. The brown-haired woman, Shayna, angrily questions the delay, while Rose looks startled. A brown-haired man offers to help Shayna, explaining that Rose is still new. The brown-haired woman, Shayna, firmly refuses the help, stating she wants Rose Valentine to handle it. The brown-haired man laughs awkwardly, while the pink-haired girl, Rose, looks worried. The pink-haired girl, Rose, reflects that she simply didn't notice and was eating, questioning if it's worth being treated this way. The pink-haired girl, Rose, sighs, frustrated by Claude and Shayna's demands, wondering if her weekend has become public property. The pink-haired girl, Rose, imagines Claude and Shayna as tormenting demons, complaining about their constant harassment. Rose, the pink-haired girl, considers reporting Claude and Shayna to the center. The black-haired man, Claude, radiates a glowing energy, sternly warning Rose Valentine not to report him. The pink-haired girl, Rose, looks relieved, deciding that survival is the top priority. The black-haired man, Claude, and the brown-haired woman, Shayna, stand together, and a chibi Rose dislikes them as a pair. The black-haired man, Claude, suggests to someone that the crowded festival requires sticking close together. The pink-haired girl, Rose, lets out a breath, feeling exhausted from the day. The pink-haired girl, Rose, curiously looks around at her surroundings. The pink-haired girl, Rose, asks Lord Claude if his retinue will be joining them today. The black-haired man, Claude, glares sideways with a stern expression. Claude, the black-haired man, with his arms crossed, declares that his retinue will not be coming anymore. The pink-haired girl, Rose, flinches, wondering if her question angered Claude. The pink-haired girl, Rose, feels lonely without Daniel Log number 1 around, contemplating her survival. The brown-haired woman, Shayna, touches Claude's arm, pointing in a certain direction. Claude, the black-haired man, tells Shayna to keep her distance, which surprises Rose. The pink-haired girl, Rose, realizes Shayna isn't exempt from Claude's no-touching rule, questioning the purpose of their date. The pink-haired girl, Rose, recalls Claude's past aversion, thinking his current efforts with Shayna are a relief. Rose, Shayna, and Claude walk down a brightly lit, bustling street. The pink-haired girl, Rose, clutches her stomach, thinking she's starving from all the walking. A gloved hand offers a delicious-looking skewer, saying here. The black-haired man, Claude, offers Rose a skewer, and she asks if it's for her. The black-haired man, Claude, questions Rose, asking if she doesn't want the food. Rose, the pink-haired girl, happily takes the skewer, thanking Claude and promising to enjoy it. The brown-haired woman, Shayna, looks at Claude and Rose, appearing annoyed. Rose, the pink-haired girl, smiles contentedly, feeling a bit sleepy after the delicious food. A gloved hand holds a skewer next to a box of takoyaki. The screen shows several plates of dumplings and waffles, as a narration declares everything is delicious. The pink-haired girl, Rose, looks tired, her legs aching despite enjoying the festival. A black-haired man announces the fireworks have started, and Rose excitedly suggests they hurry. With a thud, the pink-haired girl, Rose, stumbles, crying out, "Uh-oh." The black-haired man, Claude, catches Rose, holding her close amidst the brilliant fireworks as she looks surprised. The black-haired man catches the pink-haired girl, who gasps in surprise. The black-haired man says curtly, honestly, with a look of exasperation. The black-haired man's gloved hand quickly pulls back from the pink-haired girl. The pink-haired girl blushes, her eyes wide with surprise. The black-haired man holds the pink-haired girl, thinking what a pain, while she reacts with surprise and calls out his name. In the bustling crowd, the black-haired man holds the pink-haired girl tightly from behind, their steps in sync, making a soft pattering sound. The black-haired man holds the pink-haired girl tightly in the crowd, telling her to stay here for a bit before they leave. The pink-haired girl thinks that this crowded place must be difficult for the black-haired man, who hates such environments. The pink-haired girl mentally comments on their rather awkward position. A brown-haired man reaches out his hand, a gentle smile on his face. The brown-haired man's hand is quickly withdrawn. The pink-haired girl looks distressed. Her eyes look teary. With a sudden thud, the pink-haired girl pushes the black-haired man away, pleading, "Please wait, Lord Claude." The pink-haired girl reflects on the brown-haired woman angrily questioning if he abandoned Lady Shayna for her, demanding to know where she is. The black-haired man adjusts his gloves, stating he doesn't know where Shayna is, implying she must have wandered off on her own. The pink-haired girl pouts, sighing as she laments her wasted weekend. The black-haired man looks confused and asks, "What?" The pink-haired girl looks startled as she faces the black-haired man, crying out, "Ah!" The pink-haired girl, flustered by their sudden proximity, quickly claims, "In nothing important." A bright light erupts between two pairs of pressed lips. The pink-haired girl's eyes widen in shock, thinking, "Wait, just now." The black-haired man and the pink-haired girl exchange an intense look. The black-haired man and the pink-haired girl stand facing each other in silence. The pink-haired girl looks exhausted, recalling yesterday's sudden and tiring guide lesson. The black-haired man has a serious expression, and the pink-haired girl is inwardly troubled that he kept staring at her after the guiding session, then acted as if nothing happened. The black-haired man carries the pink-haired girl in a princess carry, declaring, "Let's go back now." The black-haired man leaves with a strange smile, and an unseen voice urges him, "Please be careful on your way back, Lord Claude." The pink-haired girl sits stunned, muttering to herself, "Huh?" The pink-haired girl shouts what in shock, standing next to a brown-haired man. The pink-haired girl holds a mug, wondering, "Yeah, I'm in the Espers support division." The pink-haired girl walks wearily, carrying two boxes. The pink-haired girl struggles with a heavy box, lamenting her sudden transfer to the Esper wing and the heavy workload. The black-haired man has a stern expression, while the cheerful pink-haired girl nervously greets him, "Hello, Lord Claude," and wonders why he's here. The pink-haired girl smiles and asks the black-haired man, "Is this perhaps your office?" The black-haired man, Lord Claude, instructs her to enter, and the pink-haired girl hastily responds, Ah yes. The black-haired man enters a lavish room, and the pink-haired girl follows, expressing her amazement. The pink-haired girl realizes she'll be working more closely with the black-haired man than she expected. The pink-haired girl nervously asks if she is the black-haired man's exclusive clerk, and he confirms that it seems so. The pink-haired girl, holding a box, asks the black-haired man, "In that case, who should I see about the handover?" A montage of delicious desserts appears, and the pink-haired girl recalls how they perfectly satisfied her cravings. A chibi Rose sits happily before a table of empty plates, fully satisfied. The pink-haired girl leans back, smiling contentedly, thinking how peaceful it is to be the black-haired man's secretary. The pink-haired girl suddenly gasps in shock. The black-haired man stares off-screen with a stern expression. The pink-haired girl looks distressed at her desk, worried she'll be scolded for dozing off. The black-haired man, walking away, instructs her, "Put on your coat and follow me," surprising her with a sudden request. The pink-haired girl puts on her coat, thinking she can't refuse his request since all she did today was eat. The pink-haired girl marvels at the tall, magnificent restaurant building she's never seen before. The pink-haired girl, standing next to the black-haired man, is surprised he booked such an elegant restaurant. The pink-haired girl thinks to herself that this means another date with Shayna. The pink-haired girl is curious about the food at this elegant restaurant. The black-haired man sits at a set table with a serious expression. The black-haired man sits at the table, looking out the window with a puzzled expression. The pink-haired girl smiles happily while the black-haired man watches her. The black-haired man questions the pink-haired girl's choice of seat, which she assumed was reserved for Lady Shayna. The black-haired man instructs her to sit across from him, tapping the table. The pink-haired girl is shocked to realize she's dining alone with Claude. The pink-haired girl asks if she should really sit in that specific spot. The black-haired man scolds the pink-haired girl, who is startled. The pink-haired girl eagerly looks at the menu, excited about the delicious food. The pink-haired girl struggles with how to order, as the black-haired man and a smiling waiter watch her. The black-haired man, looking a bit flustered, instructs them to bring everything on the menu. A waiter promises to prepare with care, while the cheerful pink-haired girl is excited for the dreamlike feast. The table is filled with a lavish spread of roasted meat dishes and various desserts, drawing an excited wow from her. The lively, pink-haired girl thinks the black-haired man is showing unexpected kindness and decides to eat her fill. The pink-haired girl thinks the meal might have originally been for Shayna and has a question. The black-haired man, holding a dessert fork, tells her to ask. The pink-haired girl hesitantly asks the black-haired man why he isn't dining with Lady Shayna. The black-haired man declares that the brown-haired woman is meaningless now, surprising the pink-haired girl. The screen shows a plate of salmon as someone explains that the brown-haired woman is not his guide. The confused pink-haired girl asks the black-haired man how he would know such a thing. The black-haired man calmly claims he just knows, avoiding a detailed explanation. A gloved hand holds a knife, creating a tense atmosphere as someone wonders what's happening. The pink-haired girl worries if the black-haired man realizes she was the one who guided him, fearing the consequences. The black-haired man tells the pink-haired girl that he hasn't found a guide for his upcoming operation yet. The pink-haired girl asks in surprise about the operation and his destination. The screen shows a gloved hand as the black-haired man explains he's going alone to stop a gate that has erupted. The black-haired man is surrounded by radiating energy, explaining that if he goes berserk during the operation, he might not return safely. The pink-haired girl is deeply shocked and distressed by this news. The black-haired man has a determined expression, believing it's best to find a place where the damage can be minimized for an inevitable event. A hand holds a pen as a narration explains that an Esper's death from going berserk creates a massive energy explosion. A star-like explosion erupts, likened to the death of a star. The black-haired man stands with his arms crossed against a dark background, looking melancholic. The worried pink-haired girl wonders if this meal is like a Last Supper. The black-haired man, with a bitter smile, calls the meal a final gift for tormenting her before. The pink-haired girl has a sad look in her eyes, appearing deeply distressed. The pink-haired girl holds a paper bag of bread, feeling strange. The pink-haired girl contemplates the contrast between Claude's rampage in the game and his current gentle demeanor. The pink-haired girl looks conflicted, questioning if she should just let Claude die. The pink-haired girl's hand clenches, worried about guiding Claude and the potential imprinting that could result. A chibi pink-haired girl looks out, calling for someone named Eileen. The pink-haired girl kneels by the blonde woman's bedside, pleading for her help with rational judgment to solve the problem. The blonde woman looks annoyed and tired, while the pink-haired girl continues to plead desperately. The blonde woman sighs and agrees to listen, and the lively pink-haired girl happily thanks her. The blonde woman, with a knowing smile, thinks to herself that Rose's story about a friend is too obvious. The pink-haired girl recounts how her friend initially avoided the black-haired man, only to later find he wasn't so scary and was quite gentle. The pink-haired girl looks distressed, thinking her friend could help with the black-haired man's problem. The blonde woman directly asks if the black-haired man is scheming against the pink-haired girl, making her falter. The blonde woman asserts that everyone knows Lord Claude has been taking the pink-haired girl around lately. The blonde woman gently pokes the pink-haired girl's nose, calling her Rose Valentine and telling her not to be so naive. The blonde woman questions if a man who has ruled his whole life with no consideration or care, while the pink-haired girl kneels in distress. The blonde woman, with her arms crossed, warns that Claude is not someone a gullible person like the pink-haired girl can handle. The blonde woman advises the kneeling pink-haired girl not to chase after an illusory dream. The pink-haired girl leans forward excitedly, exclaiming, "He's here," and invites someone in. A brown-haired man with glasses and a lab coat, Senior Azir, waves with a cheerful smile. A table is laden with macarons, cakes, and cupcakes, as an unseen person asks Senior Azir to please come this way. The pink-haired girl marvels at the array of snacks, and the brown-haired man explains they are for Claude, who has been refusing to eat. The brown-haired man eats happily with a fork, expressing relief that Claude seems to be okay. The pink-haired girl points to her cheek and hesitantly tells Senior Azir she's in trouble, and he asks what kind. The pink-haired girl imagines herself gently guiding the black-haired man's head. With a worried expression, the brown-haired man reveals he had long suspected her secret about guiding, but pretended not to know because she wanted to hide it. The pink-haired girl smiles and confirms that if anyone found out she could guide Claude, she would immediately be captured. A chibi pink-haired girl cries, imagining herself locked in a cage with a stern chibi Claude standing by, afraid of being imprisoned if her ability is exposed. The brown-haired man asks Rose what the real trouble is, realizing she didn't just call him to explain why she was hiding her guide identity. The blushing pink-haired girl confesses she's been getting very close to Claude lately. A chibi brown-haired man teases her, asking if she's starting to like Claude a little. The pink-haired girl expresses her concern to Senior Azir that Claude is about to go on a major mission, asking if there's any way to help him. The pink-haired girl describes Claude's upcoming mission as extremely dangerous, possibly even life-threatening, and she's too worried to sit back and do nothing. The pink-haired girl, looking distressed, asks if there's a way to secretly guide Claude before his mission. The brown-haired man smiles knowingly, stating he thinks he can help. Claude reflects on his weary life sustained by medication, wondering how long he's lived like this. Claude Dunhart, once blessed and favored by the gods, is introduced with a serious expression. Born into a prestigious family of S-class Espers, Claude recalls his life of never once failing. He is shown as a boy standing with his family. A young Claude looks pained as he realizes his S-class Esper awakening trigger curse. A narration explains that contact with guides causes Claude extreme pain, resulting in an unprecedented guide allergy. The screen shows Claude's father averting his gaze from two guides who were summoned to forcibly guide Claude. The forced guiding failed, leaving a young Claude with severe trauma and an aversion to human contact. Claude experiences a terrifying sensory overload, losing all 5 senses in a world consumed by darkness. A gloved hand claws at the ground as Claude desperately begs someone to just kill him. Claude's face is filled with agony as he curses, lamenting the thought of having to live like this forever. The pink-haired girl's ringed hand appears in a soft glow, with the thought of taking it slow and being gentle. Claude's face is peaceful, his eyes closed, surrounded by a soft, shimmering. The pink-haired girl peeks from a corner, confirming that Senior Azir told her to go now. Senior Azir instructs her to sneak in and guide Claude, explaining he'll be under a heavy dose of guide suppressants. The pink-haired girl steps quietly, planning to guide Claude to ease her guilt and remain unsuspected with Senior Azir support. The pink-haired girl observes the peacefully sleeping Claude in bed, determined to guide him quickly so he won't suffer anymore. The pink-haired girl reaches out to Claude on the bed, looking puzzled. The pink-haired girl suddenly panics, realizing she doesn't know how to guide him. A chibi pink-haired girl comically tries to guide a chibi Claude with a stick and an energy blast, but fails. The chibi pink-haired girl desperately prays to the gods, but her attempts still fail. The pink-haired girl gently touches Claude's forehead with her fingertips. The pink-haired girl clutches her head in frustration, exclaiming she still doesn't know how to guide, while Claude remains on the bed. The pink-haired girl stands thoughtfully by Claude's bed, watching him. The pink-haired girl looks up with a new idea, but admits it's still not perfect. A chibi pink-haired girl gently kisses a chibi Claude's cheek, wondering if she should just keep trying until it works. The pink-haired girl's large, blue eyes are filled with deep surprise. The black-haired man's gloved hand touches the ground with a thud. The black-haired man gently cups the pink-haired girl's face, smiling at her surprised, blushing expression. Eileen stands with her arms crossed, looking annoyed, while Rose hides behind her and other students. Claude questions why that woman keeps clinging to him. Amidst shimmering lights and rose bushes, Rose places a hand on her chest worriedly. Claude holds a file on Rose Valentine, confirming she's just a commoner, yet he yearns to see and touch her. Claude clutches his head in distress, admitting his intense desire to see and touch her. Rose lies in bed, looking surprised and blushing. A strange and unprecedented feeling drives Claude, while Rose looks dejected in the foreground. Claude keeps Rose by his side to observe her, and she smiles in his arms. A chibi Rose denies being a witness, then playfully encourages a kiss with Oscar. Claude refuses to become a guide and laments that he can't understand that woman. Oscar looks surprised as the screen shows Claude almost kissing him, referencing a past dangerous incident. Oscar is shocked by Claude's declaration of having long-held feelings for him. Claude holds Oscar upside down, who shouts his name in surprise. The upside-down Oscar reveals that only he and Rose were present at the time, declaring Rose as the culprit. Oscar, looking confused, asks Claude what happened. Claude looks back with a smirk, calmly greeting someone. Oscar sits across from Claude, gesturing as they prepare to talk. Claude asks Oscar for advice on women, lamenting that Rose slipped away like an eel. Oscar thoughtfully considers easing her fear and suggests a method Claude would hate. Claude agrees to any condition as long as it keeps Rose by his side. A narration explains that a deceptive act began, using Shayna as bait, who approached Claude with her own intentions. Claude then slowly approached Rose with a skewer, making sure not to startle her. Rose happily accepts a dessert spoon from a blonde man at a grand tea party. Claude is surrounded by purple energy, his brow furrowed in pain because his problem was easily solved. Claude watches Rose intently as she clasps her hands together. There is a quiet moment between them. Oscar discusses a disgusting medicine that Claude cannot take, explicitly suggesting sleeping pills and a surprise attack instead. Claude firmly refuses, repeating the same mistake. Oscar sighs, saying Claude is a lost cause. Claude endures the medicine flowing through him, covering his mouth in pain. Enduring this one time means he can have his guide, Rose Valentine. Rose is frustrated by being constantly scolded by Claude. Claude kneels and instructs Rose not to slack off, and she agrees dejectedly. Rose cries, frustrated that Claude is awake and caught her hiding. Rose looks up with a forced smile, asking how long she must stay in this position. Claude calmly states she must stay that way until she fully realizes her mistake. A chibi Rose frantically asks what mistake, overwhelmed by the possibilities. Claude question why she hid the fact that she was his guide that day. A trapped chibi, Rose worries that Claude, the game's final boss, will chop off her head if he discovers her guiding ability. Claude leans down and takes Rose's hand, observing her worried expression. Rose covers her mouth in surprise, looking shocked and flustered. Claude leans closer to Rose, asking if she likes another Esper, making her blush. Rose finds it strange, feeling as if Claude is jealous as he leans in for a kiss. Rose's hands are pressed against the chest of Claude, who is leaning close to her. Rose looks distressed, realizing Claude's attention could lead to her death, which she must avoid. Rose worriedly explains she can't guide on command, making her unhelpful. A chibi Claude reassures a chibi Rose that it's okay for her to be worried, which surprises her. Claude smiles and adjusts his gloves, thinking they just have to keep trying until it works. Rose asks in shock what Claude said. Claude gently strokes Rose's head, smiling at her back. Claude confidently smiles and adjusts his clothes amidst shimmering lights. Rose looks stunned and with a shattering sound wonders about the imprinting. The scene changes to a tall, modern building with many windows. Imprinting makes an Esper and a guide, exclusive to each other, unable to guide anyone else. An unseen speaker explains that imprinting is an unbreakable marriage, as a chibi Claude stamps. A protesting chibi Rose with an imprinting stamp. The pink-haired girl's hand is clasped with the black-haired man's, as text explains that imprinting requires spending a night together. Rose covers her blushing face, questioning if he means to imprint right here and now, then frantically refuses to give her body to a stranger amidst a puff of purple smoke. Rose looks surprised and blushes, thinking that living together might be nice. Claude tilts his head slightly, smiling slyly. The screen shows the pink-haired girl's legs as she wonders if they are going to Claude's private residence, and exclaims, "Wow." Rose's curious blue eyes widen with excitement and surprise as she says, "That would be great." Claude and Rose walk toward a modern house, and Rose wonders how Claude could live in such a beautiful place. A chibi Rose happily thinks to herself that she gets to live in such a high-class place during their cohabitation. Rose reaches for the door lock, curious whether the interior will have a modern and clean black style or a chic style. As a clattering sound is heard, Rose appears extremely shocked. The interior of Claude's house is completely empty, making Rose wonder if anyone even lives there. She notices it's extremely bare and asks him if he just moved in. A chibi Rose excitedly shows off her interior design talent to a chibi Claude, while Claude sternly tells her to just speak up if she needs anything. Rose blissfully collapses onto the large, luxurious bed, feeling like she's in heaven. Rose recalls Eileen nagging her to clean up, then observes that Claude, a neat freak, is actually taking on all the cleaning duties himself. As a chibi Rose watches, the narrator explains that Claude has stopped Rose from going to the office, announcing that she will now work remotely and won't need to commute. As she dozes off at her desk, Rose smiles blissfully in bed, having finally achieved her dream of living a comfortable life of eating, drinking, and playing. Rose looks up in surprise and says, "Ah, it's here." Claude and Rose are seated at a table laden with food, and with a clatter, Rose thanks him for preparing the meal. Rose eats happily with her cheeks puffed out, making munching sounds. Rose finds the food incredibly delicious, and Claude lets out a smile. Rose looks at Claude, wondering why he is just watching her eat. A chibi Rose asks a chibi Claude why he isn't eating, and he replies, "He's just not very hungry." Rose holds up a fork laden with food, thinking with a worried expression, "Don't tell me Lord Claude is trying to." Rose angrily shouts that Claude is trying to fatten her up like a pig to make her ugly. Claude looks somewhat confused, with sweat on his forehead, and asks what she is suspecting. Rose suspects Claude wants to make her ugly so that no other Espers will desire her. On screen, a chibi Claude says oink to a chibi pig Rose and reject her guiding. Claude smiles slightly and tells her that her imagination is quite interesting, and Rose looks surprised. Claude laughs out loud, haha. A chibi Rose looks surprised, thinking that if her deduction is wrong, why does Claude keep feeding her? Rose resolves to stop eating, declaring that she is not having dinner or snacks today because she feels uneasy. A pair of hands presents a strawberry cream cake, accompanied by a crisp sound. Rose is shocked and impressed, recognizing it as a cake from a famous bakery she has always wanted to try. Rose eats the cake with her cheeks puffed out, thinking, oh well. Accompanied by a sound, Claude gets a piece of cake for Rose, who happily thinks that the cake is innocent and just too delicious. Claude smiles and feeds Rose a bite, and Rose thinks he looks even more handsome after she has eaten something delicious. Rose eats contentedly, wondering why Claude is getting nicer and nicer to her when she thought he would kick her out for being lazy. Rose and Claude sit on the sofa together, and she thinks that if he keeps being this nice to her, she will feel guilty for acting however she wants and pushing him away. Rose looks worriedly at Claude, who is standing nearby with his arms crossed, looking away. Rose distressedly asks Claude if it's really okay for her to live like a parasite, since her guiding ability is on and off, and she is just leeching off him. Claude thinks that he hates lazy people, while Rose looks visibly dejected and lets out an ugh. Claude's hand gently lifts Rose's chin. Rose looks surprised, thinking to herself that she feels fine. Claude smiles at the surprised Rose as shimmering energy surrounds them. Rose realizes the guiding is working. The black-haired man passionately kisses the pink-haired girl on the sofa, and she thanks Lord Claude. The black-haired man kisses the pink-haired girl, who blushes, thinking that the guiding is getting stronger and wondering if Claude is aware of the situation. The black-haired man's hand gently caresses the pink-haired girl's ear and hair. The black-haired man continues to kiss the pink-haired girl's crimson cheeks. The black-haired man kisses the pink-haired girl intensely. She blushes inwardly, exclaiming that she has never felt such strong guiding before. The pink-haired girl's eyes widen during the kiss, her face completely flushed. Claude leans in close to Rose, calling her name and thinking to himself what an interesting person she is.